looking at the water points, the catchments, etc. What does that mean for the livelihoods of people? Reliable water sources for themselves and for their livelihoods. So, in a nutshell, I am saying restoration or effective restoration should cover all the important facets of life. The social, not just the ecological or the environment, the social, the financial, the inspirational. You also need to find the joy, the motivation of being a Zimbabwean, of being in Egypt, the motivation of being the rightful steward in the landscape that you are living in. So we use what we call the 4 returns framework that encompasses what I've mentioned before, the social, the economic, the inspirational. This is very important. These are not aspects in silos, but very interconnected. So conservation and livelihoods should be dealt with holistically. I think for now, I'll leave with.
Thank you, sister, for all of this power in your talking and giving us some hope of what you have said. And you give us a real example of restoring life, restoring land. The slogan of this meeting, I had to change it because you start with restoring life before the land. Guys, I always believe that all of our initiatives and our organization, our local community, is the reason to have a hope. Many times all of us had a financial issue, had a lot of issues in the organizations, but the story from the local communities and how they are acting and how they are looking at us, this is something help us to survive and to continue. Now I will move to my brother Hiro. Hiro, he wearing 2 hats. One hat now with us is the civil society in Japan, and another hat is with Panama. So he will talking with the hat of civil society, and I will ask him what does youth restoration look like in Japan, and what part of it could work somewhere completely different. And he is some diplomatic, some activist, so I advise everyone to hear him very carefully because I'm always learning from him. Here, the floor is yours.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the introduction. And my name is Hiro, and I'm glad to be here. Just to maybe start off what we do so that you have kind of the context. So we are a non-profit advisory group that we work with the local government and local groups about sustainability policies usually, like how to enable the climate change actions and also local development project and strategies. As you look at the world today, I mean, climate change, yes, absolutely important, but also just talking about that wouldn't really drive change on the ground, and how to actually motivate everyone to take on. And we need to listen to what the local priorities are and how that could align with what we are trying to achieve. So what we are trying to do is really the sort of communication between two, liaising 2 different narratives but actually talking about the same things. When you talk about sustainability at the local level, it often involves like changing energy source, protecting farmlands, protecting landscapes. These are the big priority for local groups, but they don't talk in the context of land restorations. They don't talk about in the context of energy transitions. See, I mean, I think there's a big difference between the policy language we talk and actual local priorities when it comes to how they want to express their concerns and feelings. So that's where we come in, like how to make it policy essentially when they talk about local concerns. And we also work with national parliamentarians to address policy barriers to the local solutions. There are lots of solutions that are already technologically available and accessible, but often the barriers are policies at the national level that are preventing them from taking that paperwork, getting permission from someone that has no idea what you're doing. In the context of land, Japan, as you might have heard from Japanese delegations in the plenary, big issues in Japan right now is actually the lack of use of the land. So when the lands are abandoned, I mean, you think that kind of recovers itself, but actually that isn't really the case when you don't sort of maintain and also coordinate how you do that. What happened to the agriculture sector is the large portion of the farmers already are like above 70s, and they are the one kind of acting as custodians or stewards of forests, rivers, wetlands, and others. And as you have aging populations in the rural areas, what we are seeing and what we are noticing is essentially they lost capacity to maintain these ecosystem services that functions. This has implication over disaster risk reduction, because the mountain that is not maintained is prone to the heavy rains and the terrestrial impact could cause to landslide and others. The lack of river maintenance is blocking certain rivers that are already artificially made, but that has been already part of the ecosystem, but that changes the way in which the environment works. So for Japan, again, I think there are elements of these certifications in some parts, but more so that we need, as Xiomara mentions, like, in a way it's business, that the people can actually do make life out of it. I'm not talking about making profit, I'm talking about making livelihood. And in that context, one of the things we are working on is actually the solar. So the biggest challenge for rural communities in Japan are, one of the biggest challenges is how the energy payment. So what's happening is about maximum 10% of local GDP, local economic outputs are drained to outside. So the local economy is not circular, local economy is not sustainable because 10% always goes off the area. So how to create sustainable local economy without harming environment? And one of the which we are working with the farmers is around the use of renewables in a way that protecting farmlands. So there's a solution called agri-solar, which they use solar panel in a way that is not harming the farming, actually protecting crops from the shade, from the overheat, scorching heat, protecting them from the strong wind. Sometimes, I don't know, the ice from these, I don't have an English word for that. Sometimes with the crazy climate we have, there are different environment we have, and that kind of solution could protect or increase the yield. So see, you can think like sometimes renewables becomes a challenge to the protection of the environment, but in some areas you can protect the wetland, you can protect the agricultural production, you can help the farmers to have an income and enable them to continue to be serving as a custodian of the environment they live in, which has a huge impact on the country as a whole. So I guess there are other things happening in Japan, and maybe just to conclude, we are not really youth organized, we're just young. But I think essentially what we need to think about is not really about like narrative is so key, right? What we do and how we communicate is so important. So always think about what are the narrative we are operating in, but also what the narrative you have as a baggage that might not be shared with the local groups, because that difference could be detrimental to any solutions that could benefit both. So I would actually urge, especially when you work with the rural communities and the local communities that might have a big difference with you, in terms of age, background, the environment they grew up. So that are the things I'll say to the second question. Thank you.
Thank you here so much for all of this explanation for people maybe never visit Japan like me, to understand how it's going from inside and how some solutions are, maybe it is renewable but not sustainable. Sometimes we make solar energy in places that we have an ice, how we can make it work. Sometimes in my country, Egypt, we are producing a lot of renewable energy, but the issue is storage. How we can store this electricity or something to help. Now I'm going to our sister Thaiane, and she will speak in the topic that many of the government didn't like to hear about it. The plastic. So how do you connect plastic research to environment restoration in your work? And give us like some background from your country, Brazil, and how you are trying to restore land, and restoring land there, meaning restoring life or restoring the hope, or what is it? The floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Maciel. I'm an environmental engineer. I'm also an artist, so I always try to combine like climate information and communication all together so we can spread the information to youth, to everybody. I use a lot social media, I produce content, videos, because I think we cannot solve this alone. So it's very important to spread the information to everybody. I started the project, actually started as a project, that's why the name is Canal Novo Mundo. It's a YouTube channel that I started during my university. I wanted to, my grandma to understand what I was studying. I wanted everybody to, I don't know, to connect with the topic, because many times people are having sustainable and other practices, but they don't know, they don't use this terminology, they don't use these technical words. So for me, it was very important to connect both. So what we do at the organization, we try always to combine education with communication. We make the videos, and then after some time, during the pandemic, actually, I was actually working as an artist before the pandemic. I was finishing my degree in engineering. I was like, okay, I will do more art, and then the pandemic stopped everything. I had to go back to my mom's house in Rio de Janeiro, and then me and my brother, we started like cleaning up the area that we were born and raised. So we started literally just picking up trash. That's why we started the NGO. So we work with education, but also we try to restore areas. And then plastic became my topic. So now I'm also teaching at the university in Potsdam in Germany. I'm finishing my master's in climate, earth, water sustainability. But then we just created this discipline, this module that's plastics in the environment. We have the contamination problem, we have the degradation problem, and then we have the plastic pollution problem at the moment. So we have the pollution, not only the land pollution, but also like the ocean. So during this research, last year I did a 1-year research trying to understand like plastics in the civil construction, for example, and how these could be affecting the soils, like the microplastics could be in the soils, affecting the whole system, like the carbon capture, for example. So we lose the carbon sink, not only cutting trees, but also like interfering in the carbon sink, like in the ocean and also in the soil. So when you go deep into research, you learn more and more. So I started just wanting to do something with this plastic that we found, and then created this new bricks. So my topic was like creating plastic bricks, and then other possibilities, because it's very hard to recycle this material. In Brazil, for example, only 1% of the plastic it's really like recycled, and mechanically recycling it's actually something that it's not feasible many times. So we think about recycling as something that will solve everything, but actually like when you go deep into some countries like Germany, for example, that has a very high recycling rate, actually what is really mechanically recycling, it's around like 30%, but they say that they recycle everything, but it's not technically what will happen in the end. Many times they will burn this plastic and then they will generate heat. So when you go deep into research, you see those things. And then I started like wanting to understand what to do with this plastic, and then I end up in this carbon sink, and how this we will have like a climate also problem, because then we are cutting the trees, we are losing like this. Also in the ocean we have the pollution, and of course the microplastics are also affecting our health. They already found this in our brains, in the placenta, in the milk breast. So it's a topic that for me became something very very also personal. So it's like a health problem that we have now. And I think that many people are still taking for granted plastics. We talk a lot about other topics, but like the plastic street, for example, it's something that is still ongoing, and we need to focus a little bit more because it's affecting already our health. And then it comes from the atmosphere, for example, the microplastics, it contaminates like the land and the ocean. So it's something that it's very important to talk about. So I started like just doing the actions. We removed more than 160 tons of waste from Brazil, like with volunteers, with youth. As I said, like I just started because I wanted to restore the area where I'm born and raised. And then me and my brother, we started, and then other volunteers and youth, they came together because people want to do something. The youth in Brazil, they want to do something, and they didn't know how to start. And then we did more than 500 actions through Brazil until now. And then, yes, and then the research was something that came after, because we wanted to understand like what to do with these materials. So I think we have 3 topics that are very important. So we have contamination, degradation, and now we have also plastic pollution. That's something that we should really address and don't forget, especially in conferences like here.
Thank you so much, and thanks to your family and now what you are doing in Brazil. Always the plastic is one of the hardest topic. We have been attending the plastic treaty INC 552, and spent more than 7 meetings to reach the treaty. Until now we don't have it, and we don't know if you will have it or not. In that time, I think we are eating a plastic. Scientists can approve this, and in everything, what we are smelling, what we are eating, what we are moving inside, there is a microplastic. So it is always plastic is one of the topics that I'm always like and say to the people all over the world, just leave one habit of the plastic. If you go to supermarket and buy something and they give you things into plastic bag, take one and leave one. By the end of the year, you will find that you save the planet with some of it. Now I'm moving to our youngest panelist, and she is sister from Jordan, Reem Alzorqan. She is a youth group leader at WAMIP, and she is acting very well in Jordan. And what made pastoral communities in Jordan trust a youth-led approach to regland recovery? When we are going to our people, especially in local communities, and they talk with them, the science talk, many times maybe they didn't understand us, and maybe they are not open to change, or to, they say always, this is what we found our father and grandfather and family in this. How you as a young, and you are a lady, and in community, maybe close in South Jordan or something like this, how you act in this? Tell us more about what you are doing. Reem, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and hi everyone, this is Reem. I'm a youth pastoralist. I came from pastoralist and farmer family in Jordan, so it's been a generation. But now I had to move to the city to continue my education. That's why I'm fighting for pastoralist rights, farmer rights, and everything. I'm working with WAMIP, which is World Alliance for Mobile Indigenous Pastoralists. It has 10 regions with about 200 members all over the world. So we are network exchanging for pastoralists on different levels, for example with FAO, IFAD, World Food Security Conference, and among others. And I think the first thing we need to understand that the society didn't trust us only because we are youth. They trust us because they saw that we have the willing to learn, to listen, and they found someone that they can share their experience with. Like my grandma and grandpa, they sat with us and they always, we walk with them in the field, we walk with them when they are watching the animal and everything. So that's why, not only because we are youth, because we live with them, with all of the challenges, or with all of the good and bad things that happen with them. So pastoralists have been managing rangeland and adapted to environmental change for generations. So we can't make the assumption that we are going to bring the solution for them. They've been adapting, but as a youth, we are bringing like another layer, new ways of organizing communication, taking other solutions from internationally and bring it locally. Because when I go to a lot of conference, I may meet a pastoralist in Latin America. They can help me. They solve specific thing by this way, and I can take it to Jordan to my family. So this is what we bring it as youth. We have the energy for that. So I think trust is built when community sees that their knowledge is not only being collected, but actually influencing decision. So we should not ask how young people can replace traditional knowledge. We should ask how young people can help carry that knowledge forward and along, connected with the new opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Reem, and what you are doing is something very good in the local communities, that you take the knowledge from outside to inside. Always, it is not easy to take the knowledge and to share it internally. You remind me in something happened with me 2015, 2016, something like this in Egypt, 800 kilometers from Cairo, in national park called Wadi Kemal. There is some person I trust him. He is almost 25 years old. He called Amma Muhammad. We called it Uncle Muhammad in Arabic, and he is pastoral. And we were going to them to help give them just a solar power for one light in the evening to put it in his tent. We make it with 10 families, 20 families, something like this. And when we go to him, he say to me, "Do you see my hair?" His hair were white hair. I say yes. He say to me, "Since I was a child till now, I know the morning is light and evening is dark. Why would I like to change my behavior? I'd like to pass away in this way." And he rejected me, and I couldn't talk with him how this is going. I said to him, "Maybe you can save your family." He said, "Saving them from what? I know here more than you." He said to me, we were in mountain, we take a car around 150 kilometers from the route to reach to him. So if I leave you here, you can go back to the route? I can go. You couldn't go. He started using his camel to go to the city every 3 months to buy what he needs, and he back with the camel, and sometimes he sell the milk of camel or something like this to continue his life. So I'm very happy, Reem, for what you are doing in local community. Myself, I fail to do it sometimes, but we are believing in the new generation, how they are acting and how they are doing. Now I will have my second question, and it will be the same question for all of the panel. And I hope everyone can give us a true answer to it. If I'm a dreamer, so I will try to dream and imagine. if we don't have any financial issue and we don't have a policy issue in restoring land, restoring life, what will be your first step for each speaker? What is your first step or initiative you will do in your local community? And it's a pilot, can the others in the world take it from local to global? I will start here with my sister Xiomara.
Wow, that's a good scenario. So I gotta say that, well, what we do in Mallorquin will be to strengthen the mangrove seedlings, because we really need more, of course, made and also like, protected and managed by the community members, especially young people, as well as all the elders that, have been also stewards for mangrove restoration. And yeah, made it totally protected. I think that's one of the pending issues. As I said, we have a global protection, like recognition, but we don't have a local. So it's contradictory, and it's very necessary that we also protect our wetlands. As I said, not only in the global list, but also nationally and locally, because that's the only way also to enforce, for demanding effective reparations for the damages that the wetlands have. So I gotta say that, finally invest in the declaration of protected area for Mallorquin, locally and nationally, in synergy with the global, recognition we have in Ramsar, and also spread more the mangrove seedlings and increase and promote a network of different, people being the stewards of this restoration, and also investing in care and investing in this social infrastructure, because as I say, restoration is not about planting, it's about how you're going to make them grow, and that process takes time. So it's a long-term process, and it definitely really needs funding to sustain that, to recognize the contributions of people protecting the wetland, shifting the power relationships. So as I say, they need to live in dignity, they need more recognition of their contributions that they're doing in advancing this work, and at the same time we need also to sustain the process, and that also means investing in care, investing in environmental defense, because also many people here have been defending this wetland and they've been threatened because of this, because of being those stewards for its defense. So yeah, a lot of funding will definitely go for that. Maybe not that visible layer of what restoration is, but it really makes the difference, and all that infrastructure is often underfunded and is also often sustained by women. So I think that's also very critical, and it's time to also shift the approach and shift the power and put the money in their hands.
Thank you. The process always takes time, so that's always what I think. So even though you might have, let's say, no issue of the finance, but then unless you buy people, I think it's very hard to change things instantly with a cash flow. But definitely the way which I would use would be to really build an ecosystem on the ground, how the material could be circulated within that. As I mentioned earlier, the challenges often is the way in which you use and coexist with the environment and protect the areas. They are, as Xiomara said, not funded. Often the mechanism is weak and do not have political powers. So unless we change the system, you can improve maybe temporarily with the additional finances, etc. But then unless these local groups, the local ecosystem have a political power to actually influence decision making at the national level, that wouldn't last. So I would direct all conversation to that end, how to strengthen political power of the local communities on the ground, and stuff from there. Thanks.
Thank you for that question. For me, I would say we would continue to strengthen the community-led kind of program.